this materials acceptance report this morning for a little maintenance project that we're about to have a pre-con meeting on. And I thought it was a good one for an example. It's just one page, which is fairly unusual for a materials acceptance report. And you see here that there's all of the bid items. In gray, each one is a bid item, and then the white underneath the gray are the materials for that item. So these two materials are possible materials to use with the painting of structural steel bid item shown here. First of all, let me go back and just mention Sydney does a great job with these pre-con meeting invites, where she'll put in the forms that they require, as well as the plans and the materials acceptance report, which is really helpful to me as a DME because usually this is the first contact I have with the project. So I can just click here and open the plans, click here and see what materials are involved. And then she also puts a DocExpress link down to this project specifically, which is really handy. I can just click in there and go to see if any of these material certs have already been submitted before the pre-con meeting, or during the pre-con meeting, I can just open this up from my calendar. So again, it's pretty helpful. I think it's helpful for the contractor that they can have the source of materials report that they can fill out here, and the questionnaire and the other items that they need. So anyway, very helpful to have all that information in the pre-con meeting invite. So back to the materials acceptance report. The way this is laid out is the material description is here, and that comes from a material code in the background. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. So this whole report is generated out of our LIMS system, which is Laboratory Information Management System, I believe. And so when the letting is done, all the items go into the system, and then this report is generated out of that to show all of the materials that are on the project. So working our way across each material here, we have the description and any comments for those. These two don't have any comments, but sometimes there's some kind of special caveats in there. It also shows the spec number, the IM number, the sampling frequency for the DME, the RCE or project engineer, and for the contractor. Again, these two items don't have any sample requirements for the projects, so you know that you don't have to do any samples. And then the basis of acceptance is on approved brand and certification statement. Approved brand is fairly easy. We just go into Maple and make sure that it's an approved source. And then certification statement seems easy, but that's where kind of people get caught up, and that's why I wanted to do this video. So what we know here is that these fall under these two IMs, 482.02, 482.04, and then their according specs. So let me look at the spec first, because I have that open, 4182.02 and 04, have that open here. And really all this spec says is that it has to comply with the IM. So that's super easy. A lot of times there'll be some other little things that you have to pull out of the spec, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. So for the IM, first of all, let's look to approved brand, because that will get us to the IM. So we're going to look for 482.02 approved brand on Maple. So this particular project, they don't have any materials submitted yet, or source of materials list submitted yet. So we can't look up the exact material, but we can look up what needs to be on the certification statement. So 482.02, I'm going to pop over to Maple, which is just maple.iowdot.gov. And I'm going to search by IM. And if I type in 482, it pops me down the list. 482.02 is the first one, structural paint. And the reason I like to look up the approved material first is a lot of times you'll have that from the material source report provided by the contractor. And I can look and see, let's say that they're going to use this Americoat. I can look and see that that's an approved source and when it was approved, and you can click into these and get more details. But the reason I mentioned coming and looking up the approved source first is you can also then click right into the IM, and that will open up the IM specified on the materials acceptance report. So on most of these IMs, the first part the first chunk you'll see here is producer and product approval. So this causes confusion for some people. So this is when PPG wants to get this product put on our approved source. This is what they have to do. So they have to submit this product data, valuation from NetPep, those kind of things. So this is to get on the list. Well, we already know they're on the list because we looked them up in Maple. So what we really need to know for the project is what we need to accept this. And so here is the important part for acceptance. And then for materials inspectors, here's the important part for monitoring. If you would read this, it would just say that we only have to monitor it if we think we have to monitor it. There's no shalls every so often. So so the only, I guess, shall is that they shall provide it upon request. So anyway, so this is what we need to do for the project. And there's no other things in the specs and no other IMs tied to this item. So this is the list. So they have to provide 3 copies of certification document. And on that document, it has to have these things. In addition, it has to have this certification statement. So this one's really easy, where it just has to have those 5 things plus a certification statement. So what we have been doing is going through and collecting this information for the IM into kind of more of a bulleted list that looks like this. So if you have this item, then your cert has to have these things on it. And I think that when you look at the certification statement on the materials acceptance report, it just says it has to have a certification statement. Well, it's quite often problems in the audit that they have a certification statement, but it's missing some of the stuff. Like maybe it's missing the lot or batch number, or I don't know, the company that it was sold to. And then we do check that it's worded like this, to certify these products have been blah, blah, blah. So we've just been making these bulleted lists to make it easy for us to check. So now let's go back to Maple, and we're going to look on the next one, 48204, for that aluminum epoxy paint. Do the same thing, click into the IM, and this one also has that acceptance here. I'm sorry, I missed a part from the O2 that I wanted to mention. So here it has to have batch and lot numbers, and it has to have a mill certificate for the zinc pigment, certifying compliance and purity requirements of ASTM, blah, blah. So that's where on our bulleted list, oh, I have the wrong one pulled up. That's my confusion here. On the bulleted list, we have that it has to have the lot and batch numbers, and it has to have that producer mill certificate, just so it's more of a checklist. Does it have this? Does it have that? Does it have this? That helps us with auditing, and hopefully eventually will help inspectors to know that they got everything on the list. So that's how we use the materials acceptance report, and go through and make sure that everything that is supposed to be there for acceptance is there. And then if this was these certs were in Doc Express, we would go ahead and check those that we have looked at them and that they meet everything. So if you have any questions about materials acceptance report, let me know. Thanks.